Democracy is not optional. Democracy is not an inconvenience. Democracy is the foundation of a stable, fair and prosperous society. We vote our way to change. We vote our way to accountability. And when you take that vote away for any reason, you break the trust with the people you're meant to serve. You. And no amount of 3-hour speeches from this failing Labour leader will change any trust. And residents are not interested in excuses anymore. No. They're not buying them. And frankly, you shouldn't. Because in the last 6 months, this administration has delivered scandal after scandal. A disgraced former Labour official appointed as head of communications. World War II slurs used in this chamber about a councillor's grandfather. Yeah. A box of tissues placed on my desk as a personal
Picture this, a council chamber packed with 50 furious residents, a Reform councillor delivering an absolutely blistering speech about democracy itself being under attack, and a Labour leader being called a dictator to his face while the whole room erupts in chaos. Sounds like a Netflix political thriller, right? Wrong. This is Basildon Borough Council on a Thursday evening, and what happened there should terrify every single person who believes in democracy. Because while you were scrolling TikTok and worrying about whether your Deliveroo was going to arrive cold, 4.5 million Britons just had their vote stolen from them. And before you click away thinking this is just another boring council meeting drama, ask yourself this: if they can cancel elections in Essex, what's stopping them from cancelling yours? I'm Brit Article, and what I'm about to show you is the moment British local democracy went absolutely off the rails. But before we dive into this absolute car crash of democratic principles, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because this channel is your frontline defense against the political establishment trying to pull fast ones on the British people. Trust me, you're going to want notifications turned on for what's coming. So, let's set the scene. Basildon Borough Council, Essex. Not exactly the political hotbed you'd expect to witness democracy literally being dismantled in real time. Labour leader Gavin Callaghan has just made a decision that would make even the most authoritarian regime blush. He's cancelling local elections for 14 seats that were supposed to happen in May. Just cancelled them. Poof. Gone, like a magic trick, except instead of pulling a rabbit out of a hat, he's making your democratic rights disappear. And here's the kicker. He declared this decision irreversible. Not difficult, not unfortunate, irreversible. That's the kind of language you use when you're announcing the heat death of the universe, not when you're a councillor in Essex making decisions about bin collections and parking permits. Now, you might be thinking, surely there's a good reason, right? There must be some extraordinary circumstance, some emergency, some crisis that justifies literally cancelling democracy. Well, buckle up, because the excuse is about to make your blood boil. The official line from councils across Britain, and there are loads of them pulling this stunt, is that elections would be too expensive because they might have to do them again in a year or two when Labour's local government reorganisation happens. Let me just repeat that so it really sinks in. They're cancelling elections because they might be inconvenient later. It's like cancelling Christmas because you'll probably have to celebrate it again next year. It's like refusing to eat breakfast because you'll probably be hungry again at lunch. The logic is so stupendously backwards that it could only come from the minds of politicians who genuinely believe the peasants won't notice. And here's where it gets spicy. 50 residents crammed into that council chamber. 50 people who actually gave enough of a toss about their democracy to show up on a weekday evening, probably missing EastEnders or whatever normal people do with their lives, to tell their elected representatives that this was absolutely not on. Enter Sam Jornet, Reform UK councillor, and apparently the only person in that room with a backbone made of something other than custard. This man stood up and delivered what might be the most important speech you'll hear from a British council chamber this year. And I want you to listen carefully to what he said, because every single word is fire. Democracy is not optional. Democracy is not an inconvenience. Democracy is the foundation of a stable, fair and prosperous society. Boom, straight out of the gate, no messing about. He's not playing the usual political game of diplomatic language and careful phrasing. He's calling it exactly what it is. He continued, "We vote our way to change. We vote our way to a county. And when you take that vote away for any reason, you break the trust with the people you're meant to serve. This is the stuff they should be teaching in schools instead of whatever nonsense passes for citizenship education these days. Because Jornet has just articulated in 3 sentences what the entire political establishment seems to have forgotten. You don't get to just cancel democracy because it's a bit awkward for you." But wait, because Jornet wasn't done dismantling their pathetic excuses. Remember that cost argument I mentioned, the one where they claim elections are too expensive? Well, here comes the knockout punch. The officers are already running elections. The polling stations are already open for Essex County Council. In other words, the infrastructure is already there. The staff are already working. The buildings are already booked. They're literally already doing elections, just not for these particular seats. It's like refusing to cook dinner because you've already made lunch in the same kitchen. The excuse doesn't just fall apart under scrutiny, it evaporates like morning mist. And then Jornet did something absolutely brilliant. He turned to the residents in that chamber and asked them directly, "Do you want to vote?" And the response? A resounding, echoing, unmistakable yes that reverberated around the chamber. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what real democracy sounds like. Not some councillor in a suit telling you what's good for you. Not some bureaucrat explaining why your opinion doesn't matter this time. Actual people actually demanding their actual rights. Now, here's where things get properly ugly. Because when you back politicians into a corner and expose their nonsense for what it is, they don't usually take it well. And Callaghan, the Labour leader at the centre of this democratic dumpster fire, absolutely did not take it well. The meeting descended into what can only be described as complete chaos. Accusations started flying. The word dictator was being thrown around, which, let's be honest, when you're cancelling elections and declaring decisions irreversible, you're not exactly helping your case on that front. But then came the counterattack, and oh boy did it come. Callaghan claimed that a councillor was left in floods of tears after being ultra-aggressively verbally abused and threatened. He specifically pointed the finger at Sam Jornet, painting him as some kind of threatening thug, terrorizing innocent council officers. Strong stuff, career-ending stuff. Except there's a problem. Reform UK absolutely denies these accusations, and Jornet himself has called it a smear. In fact, plot twist, Jornet claims he was assaulted and has demanded a peer review of the entire council. So now we're in full-on he said, she said territory, with both sides claiming victimhood and aggression from the other. Callaghan doubled down, saying female council officers were shaking and in tears because of Jornet's behaviour, calling him a thug, and even making a bizarre reference to a DBS check, which, for those who don't know, is a criminal records check. That's a serious accusation. That's not just political point scoring, that's character assassination. And he finished with a dig at Essex Police for supposedly not being there to protect these terrified officers from the big scary Reform councillor. But here's where you need to pay attention, because Reform's response cuts right through the noise. Their spokesman said, and I quote, "Councillor Callaghan has no shame. If he didn't act like a dictator by robbing thousands of residents of their democratic rights, then people wouldn't get angry." And that, right there, is the heart of this entire mess. Because whether you believe the allegations of aggression or not, whether you think Jornet crossed a line or Callaghan is making it up, none of that changes the fundamental issue. Democracy was cancelled. 4.5 million people across Britain have been denied their vote. And when you do that, when you take away the peaceful democratic mechanism for change, people get angry, they get frustrated, they get loud.
Let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about Basildon. This is happening across the country. Councils everywhere are using the same excuse, the same logic, the same shameless disregard for democratic principles. They're all reading from the same playbook, and that playbook apparently has a chapter titled How to Cancel Elections and Get Away with It. The excuse is always local government reorganization. The reasoning is always cost. The result is always the same: ordinary people losing their voice. And here's what really gets me. These are the same politicians who will stand up and lecture us about the importance of democracy when it suits them. They'll wax lyrical about fighting for British values, about standing up to authoritarianism abroad, about the precious nature of the ballot box. But the moment that ballot box becomes inconvenient, the moment it threatens their comfortable positions, suddenly democracy is negotiable. Suddenly it's too expensive. Suddenly it can wait. But the residents of Basildon aren't buying it. Those 50 people who showed up to that meeting, they represent thousands more who are absolutely furious. And they should be, because this sets a terrifying precedent. If elections can be cancelled because they're a bit costly or a bit inconvenient, what other excuses will they come up with next time? Elections during economic hardship? Too expensive. Elections during reorganization? Too complicated. Elections when the polls look bad for the incumbents? Well, they probably won't say that bit out loud, but you get the idea. Sam Journay said something in his speech that deserves repeating. This is a defining moment, a powerful moment, and every single one of you across the chamber on the opposition benches will be remembered for what you've done today. And he's absolutely right, because in years to come, when people look back on how British democracy was slowly eroded, not through some dramatic coup or revolution, but through boring council meetings and bureaucratic decisions, Basildon Borough Council in early 2025 will be a case study. It will be an example of the moment when elected representatives chose convenience over democracy, cost savings over democratic rights, and their own comfort over the voices of the people they're supposed to serve. Look, politics is messy. Council meetings are boring. Local government reorganization sounds like the kind of thing that could cure insomnia. But underneath all of that administrative tedium is something that actually matters. It's your right to have a say. It's your right to hold your representatives accountable. It's your right to vote them out if they're doing a rubbish job. And when that right gets taken away, whether it's in Basildon or anywhere else in Britain, it matters. It matters a lot. So keep your eyes on this story. Keep demanding accountability. And for the love of democracy, pay attention to your local council, because apparently they're out here cancelling elections like they're cancelling Netflix subscriptions. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and make some noise.